We started with ABCD, now we go into the depth of A. So the next session is all about driving next for AI. While I welcome the speaker of the session, Atul Jalan, onto the stage, it's my privilege to introduce Atul Jalan. Welcome, Atul Jalan. A round of applause, please. A quick brief of Atul. Atul is the founder and CEO of Manthan, and he works with a single objective, to keep the spirit of invention and innovation going at Manthan, a spirit that has seen Manthan go on to become one of the leading contenders in the analytics business solutions for consumer industries worldwide. Manthan is Atul's fourth successful venture, and today among the few Indian companies that can boast of an analytics portfolio that several Fortune 500 companies rely on. Atul is a known voice on technology and sought after for his views on analytics and consumerization of technology by forums and publications worldwide. And what is not known, he dabbles in something very interesting, poetry, and takes a keen interest in a wide range of subjects, from movies to quantum physics. With that, welcome Atul, and over to you. Thank you.
Sorry. I thought my introduction would still continue. I want to see some excitement. You've just been granted youth. Your telomeres have been extended. You know, isn't that cause for some excitement? I also believe that we truly live in one of the most exciting time, at least one of the most romantic time in the last 200,000 years. You know, I don't think a rational human mind has been so optimistic ever before this. You know, as a younger man, I used to lament that I was not born during French Revolution, along with Jacobins and Voltaire, or during India's freedom fight. I don't think I lament that anymore. I truly believe that this is one of the most romantic period in our 200,000 years of civilization history. If you look at what we call our progress, the progress of our civilization, to my mind, it moves on two distinct threads and capabilities of ours. Our capability to invent stories, our capabilities to invent technologies. We invent both, and they go on to invent our ways of life. We are not the strongest animal in the food chain. On a scale of 10, we somewhere fit between anchovies and pigs, literally. Yet we lord the universe. What gives us that place is our faculties with our technologies, correct? From fire wheel, steam engine, Google, electricity, telephone, all our inventions have gone on to reinvent our way of life. I sincerely believe we today stand at the cusp of another such massive change. And that's why I think this is such an exciting time. We can extend our telomeres by auto-suggestions and so on, but we also can extend our telomeres by bioengineering today. And there's so much going out there. I think, as I said, we stand on cusp of another major change, this time too brought to us by our technologies. This time brought to us by confluence of technologies like AI, bioengineering or genetic engineering, nanotechnology, and quantum computing. And I would believe this change would be profounder, if you will, than any change that we have experienced before it. For this time, our technologies are merging with our biology. Take a second or two. This time, our technologies are merging with our biology. And this, just to put things in perspective, there's just a difference of 1.26 odd percentage between chimps and us. You know, between the genetic makeup of chimps and us, just there's some 1.26% difference. And look at that, what that 1.26% difference does. We go on to invent cities and create cities and empires. You know, land on moon, smash atoms, invent money, imagine gods, and chimp ends in a zoo. Imagine another 1% change. And I think this confluence of the technologies that I'm speaking about is going to engineer that change. Our evolution is not going to be nature-led anymore, but is going to be artificially engineered by man. And along this change, I think is going to upend the very code of our lives, our way of our lives, is going to change what we are what has been last 300, 400 years after, I think, fallout of Industrial Revolution, our idea of democracy, of idea of freedom, of sex, of relationships, of marriage, of money, of job, of the identity that we associate with our jobs. I think the defining debate and problem of next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years would be socio-political debate on how do we put a new code of morality and ethics around this change. Take example of self-driving autonomous cars. These cars are going to be on the road. These cars would, God forbid, but this car also would be involved in accidents. Who do you punish? The guy who wrote the software? Somebody who put the satellite up there? The owner of the car or the passenger of the car? Your current code of ethics is not geared to deal with it. There are humanoids, real life like humanoids who are coming into people's lives. There's a country like Saudi Arabia which doesn't give so much freedom to their woman, but gives freedom to Sophia. In fact, calls her the citizens of Saudi Arabia, while the others. So what kind of place with this near real life humanoids would go and get into a society? In a country like India, it has taken second decade of 21st century to decriminalize LGBT. How long would we take to embrace this new sapient, sentient being into our lives? And I think that would be the most defining 10, 15 years. That would be the biggest political debate as well of next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Coming specifically to the current state of art of AI, I think there's some cosmic connection between AI and evolution of AI and games. Today, I think AI, all the board games that I can think about, checkers, Othello, backgammon, and of course chess, AI is the world champion, except the game of Go. Have you guys heard of Go? Go is a game, I think it originated in China some 2,500 years ago. It's an extremely complicated game. Just to contrast that with chess, in chess you have is a grid of 8 into 8, 64 squares. In Go you will have a grid of 19 into 19, 361 squares. And the game is simple. It's played between two players, and the idea and the winner is somebody who occupies more of the territory. Okay, and it's played with, in chess you play it with 32 pieces. Here there's a polystone on all 361 pieces. In chess, for every possible, any possible time on an average, you have 35 possible moves. In game of Go, you could have 215 to 250 average moves. So it's extremely complicated, intrinsic game, not because there are 250, 250 moves, that computational abilities would be able to solve for very easily. What makes it complicated and a hard problem to solve for AI so far, unlike chess, okay, which IBM Deep Blue also beat through the top-down expert approach, unlike chess or any other game, this is not, you can't apply rules. It's played more by intuition and feel of the board. And I would think DeepMind's AlphaGo win over Lee Sedol, who is like a 9-dan, no handicap champion of Go. He's like Roger Federer and Michael Schumacher of Go, beating them in a 5-match game. I think to me, that kind of marks the current state of art of AI. Okay, and again, talking about AI and games and their cosmic connection, this AlphaGo, also like many other sophisticated neural nets, runs on a network of machine which is fired by graphical processing units. These GPUs were originally designed for graphical intensive applications and were designed to write games, to conjure up imaginary worlds are being used to think through real world problems. Having said that, what really excites me at a very personal level is that we'll be able to answer some fundamental questions that we have been carrying in our heads since we developed the ability to think. And I say this for two reasons. Number one, in our quest to evolve AI, in our quest to evolve AI to near humanness, for first time, we're asking ourselves some very fundamental questions. Who am I? What is it to be self-aware? What is consciousness? And second is that the enormous computational capabilities and power that we have at our disposal today. And this would help us answer questions that Plato, Descartes, Kesakambli, or Sankaracharya might have asked. Questions that so far we have only left religion and philosophy to answer for. And that kind of makes me very, very excited about where we are headed. And at this point, I think I should call Shailesh, a good friend of mine. And AI is still learning, right? And it's not anywhere near passing the ex machina grade of Turing test. And I can't think of a better person than Shailesh to guide us through or to give us a perspective on the ground reality of where the state of art of AI is. A small introduction on Shailesh, it doesn't look small to me, is that he has over 20 years of experience in applying and innovating machine learning, statistical pattern recognition, and data mining algorithms to hard prediction problems in a wide variety of domains, including remote sensing, text mining, bioinformatics, computer vision, and image understanding. What have you not done, Shailesh? Okay. Transaction data mining, retail analytics, risk analytics in financial domain, fleet management, and web analytics. AI and machine learning, data mining and statistical pattern recognition, reinforcement learning, text mining, computational linguistics, computer vision, and image understanding. I'm going to stop here, Shailesh. This goes on. You get the idea. So, Shailesh.
Thank you. Thank you. So, I'll just start with some slides and then we'll get into the discussion. Thanks. So, what I wanted to do was share some of these experiences in a 10-minute capsule in terms of some of the insights. And I think we are at a time where, we need to evolve our own idea of what AI is, right? If I ask this question to everyone, we all have a different fantasy about it. So I think there's no common understanding, and obviously we need to evolve our idea of AI thinking the way we have evolved our idea of, object-oriented programming thinking or cloud thinking. Similarly, AI thinking has to evolve. So I'll just give you a few insights around that based on what my journey was and how my own AI thinking has evolved, right? So what I'm seeing in the last 20 years is that a lot of companies are going through, these 4 stages of transition, right? So they all start as infrastructure companies, all the way from Google, which put together the infrastructure to crawl the web, index the web, was infrastructure. And then they became automation companies. Some engineer coded up the rule on how a search engine should work, or how Ola should allocate cabs, or how a refinery should work. And then they started a lot of data collection for only 2 purposes. One is to report the summary of what happened and to debug the system. And this was the first use case of why people started collecting data. They didn't think that it actually can be used for something beyond that. And then, people came up with this idea of, can we make machines not programmed but learnable? And that's when the AI revolution started. So a lot of companies are now in the journey from being a data company to an AI company, whether it is Reliance or Google or Shell or pharma companies or what have you, retail companies, right? Now within the AI world, again, if I zoom in, there are 4 stages of the AI journey, if you will, which one is, business intelligence, which is just reporting the past in so many ways. And then, reporting the past is not, how we live our life, right? We don't talk about history and past and then move forward. We actually predict the future. So the birth of machine learning is about predicting the future. And predicting the future is not fun if we cannot affect the future, right? So if I can predict that somebody is about to come to the road, and if I cannot affect the future, then it's useless. So in my mind, data science is a layer of actions on top of a layer of predictions. And if I can affect one action at a time and one decision at a time, can I actually optimize the future, if you will? And that's a long strategic view of how do I optimize, my entire education curriculum or my entire agriculture curriculum or my entire customer life cycle value, right? How do you think long term and not one action at a time? So in my mind, even within AI, there is these 4 stages of transition that every company is going through, and we have tools and algorithms around it. Now, if I have to explain AI and what does it do, it really helps us make better decisions. So what is better? And I want to give a sense of what is better decision, right? So one is what I call, this is a big transition that is happening, broadcast to personalized, right? Our education system is a broadcast decision. TV broadcasts, all these are broadcast decisions. How do we go from there to personalized education, personalized medicine, personalized farming, and personalized ads and other things, right? Another thing it does, how do we not work on a calendar, but on a trigger system, right? So, I don't want to send a Sunday email to all my customers, which is the same. How can I do it based on what they have done just now, right? So how do I make this a lot more real time than a batch system, right? So trigger driven, that's how we are. We are trigger driven, all intelligence systems are. And if I can predict, can I be proactive, right? Do I need a child to fail a class before I put him on a tuition or a program, right? Do I need a farmer to commit a suicide before I know that, we should have done something? How can we be proactive about it? Because, same thing in healthcare. Do I have to, get a heart attack before I know that I'm going to get a heart attack, right? So the idea is how do we become very proactive and not reactive in our decision making? And the last is, this is where really AI will shine, which is how do I not think about, one-shot decisions, right? How do I allocate this car to this driver now should not just be a function of the now, but also the function of what will happen when he gets there and what will be his earnings over the rest of the day. So how do I combine strategic objectives with tactical objectives, like winning a game of chess or Go, is where AI will really shine. And all our important decisions are really strategic decisions. If you think about building a career is a strategic decision, right? A sequence of decisions. Building a customer relationship with an organization is a strategic set of decisions, right? So how do we go there? And that's where a lot of AI can help, right? Another struggle that a lot of data science types have with the CXOs is that, it's very hard for us to explain why AI is different from IT. If you are in an IT mode, you will think that, oh, I have installed the software, it should work, right? That's how IT people think. I have installed the software, it should work. It's like a mother saying, I have given birth to the child, it should start doing all the PhD right now, right? Learning systems are not, installed, they learn over time. And that needs patience, it needs data, it needs a learning loop. And that's one of the things that I tell, all the impatient CXOs all the time that, don't worry that it doesn't work on day one, yeah? And, there is a whole learning loop that happens. It's a very well-defined process that you start with, a sample of reality. You don't have all the reality, right? Amazon has a certain sample of reality. Flipkart has a certain other sample of reality. It's the same reality. And with their data, they are discovering new knowledge all the time. They're refining the knowledge, they generalize, build models, and they have a model of reality, right? And then they use the model of reality to do their decision making. And the important part is, when you get, your next set of data, you interpret it based on your previous knowledge that you have acquired from the knowledge. And a very simple example is, when you read a book today, you have a certain amount of knowledge which you use to interpret the book today. When you read the same book 5 years from now, the data is still the same, the book is still the same, but the way you will interpret it will be very different. And that's what this loop is. It's going to see the same chess game, but now going to do a better decision than what it did before, right? And this learning loop thinking is one of the aspects of AI thinking that has to come, because IT people think input-output, AI people think loop, right? That's the key thing here. Another thing that I'm seeing is a evolution of products going on, right? If you think about products of the previous generation, they all came with what we call latent intelligence. It was programmed into them, right? They didn't learn, they didn't improve over time. They had latent intelligence. Then we saw the second generation products, which actually were not started intelligent, but they had the ability to crowdsource data and become intelligent over time, right? Google search is still improving. Uber is still improving, right? So the idea is all these products have started doing that. And now what is the next generation product going to look like? And that's what I call, the ecosystem in products, which are not just going to talk to people and learn from that. They're going to actually talk to each other, right? Devices talking to each other, and they're, collaborating with each other and learning. So smart cities, connected cars are the products of the next generation. And in order to, we went from 1 to 2. We learned about scale. We learned about how to take one machine learning idea and build a whole company around it. Now we're going to relearn what it takes to build ecosystem products, which is a completely different kind of AI thinking that we are going to need. And to build there, I think, this is one of the AI thinking, which is, I started a company, I need model 1. As a bank, I need customer segmentation. Then I need, cross-sell. Then I need churn prediction. Then I need something else. So I have like this 20 collection of models. And that's what we do. One was written in Spark, 200 years ago. And one is written in, COBOL, and one is in Spark. But that's not how we will progress, right? And when I went to companies like Ola and Geo, I learned that, we don't need to think like that. We are not living in a collection of models. We are living in an ecosystem of models where output of a model is an input to another model. So, we keep thinking some input, some output. It's not like that. There's a whole collection of, it's like an architecture of AI that needs to evolve in every domain. And, that's something that we need to do. So, just to summarize some of the guiding principles I have learned, one is AI is not installed. It improves over time. Data doesn't mean your own data only. There's always this public data that you can use, and you'll see a lot more value when you integrate public data with your data. For example, when we were building, demand prediction models of when, how many cars are needed where, it turned out that weather data and events data of the city, which is external and public data, was very useful in predicting demand, right? And not just your own data. And one interesting thing I learned is data science is not as much about data as it is about the idea of the state of an entity. So what is your financial state? Given all your transaction history, can I tell you what is your capacity score, what is your credit score, what is your fraud score, what is your whatever score, right? Discipline score. Given your health and Fitbit, can I define your health state? And if you can define state, whether in education, healthcare, agriculture, wherever, state is the key, because you can decide then what data you need to collect to get to the state, and from this state, what kind of actions you can optimize. So state is the key to thinking about AI, and everything is before and after. We talked about, don't build a collection of models. Think of an ecosystem of models, and how do we get there? That's another aspect of AI thinking. Another thing I learned very interesting is, IT people think about building a product, but I think AI people should think about what they're building is actually not just a product, it's a sensor. So if you think like that, Google search is not just a search engine, it's a sensor. It's also collecting a lot of data. Paytm is not just a wallet, it's also a sensor. It is collecting a lot of data. And when you think like that, the amount of care you will take to record everything that happens on your system will go so much more, because now you're building a sensor. It looks like a service or a product to the customer, but to you, it's a sensor. So the AI thinking turns around the idea of what a product is. And lastly, any technology grows with use cases. So I think we have done a very nice set of, use cases in e-commerce and other areas, but I think it's time that AI can leapfrog into other areas like healthcare and education and agriculture. And I think those are the new use cases that need to start emerging if we change our AI thinking from a use case perspective. So I'll stop there and we'll get into a discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Shailesh. Well done.
Thank you. Hi. Yeah, so, Atul, I just wanted to see, you've been working in retail for a while.
I'm guilty of that, yes.
Not guilty, yeah. What are some of the use cases of AI in your world?
Sure. Look, retail used to be about location, location, location. I think today retail should be about technology, technology, and technology. Think about Amazon.com. You think of Amazon.com as much as a retailer as a technology company, don't we? Every retailer globally that I meet and work with aspires to be algorithmic retailers. So far, retailers have been using the trail of data left by their customers to personalize the customer shopping experience. Because today's customer is a multi-channel flirt, I keep saying, who has been empowered by the consumerization of technology. And this empowered customer today demands more convenience, more customization, more choices. So a lot of AI is used by retailers to leveraging customers' data trail to personalize their pricing, individualize pricing, customized, personalized promotion, and customer-centric merchandising. So that's one big area. Second, one big area, we keep talking about robotic process automation. I think retail would be one industry that I think that's truly applied for processes like product assortment and allocation. Increasingly, there are use of robots in warehouse and logistics department. Then there are increasingly more sophisticated experiments with drone used as, or unmanned vehicles used as last mile delivery. So these are some of the trends that. So Shailesh, the same note, you have had such a great experience and vantage point working with fleet management and now telco. What are some of the interesting use case scenarios you are seeing there?
Yeah, so before these two, I worked at Google and Yahoo. So there were very different use cases. When I came to Ola, it was very different use cases. So I think one of the big ways to formulate this fleet management problem was to match supply with demand, because whenever you have a limited resource environment, the number of cabs is limited and the demand is so much. So understanding demand models, right? How do you know where, how many cars are needed at what time and why? And then matching that with the with the supply is one of the key ways to optimize a fleet management system. So that was one area, and we did a lot of things on pricing optimization and fleet movement and all that stuff. In the telco world, we all understand what Jio has done, but the idea is now, we are looking at it from, hey, the city is actually a very dynamic entity. And city is not the same. In the morning, it looks different. In the evening, during commute time, things are moving, right? Where people live, where they work. So the idea is, how do you adapt the network to adapt to the city? And say, I'm going to get more demand from this side because there's an office in the morning and this side is the apartment, and so on and so forth. So some of the things is, how do you increase, with the same resources, how do you increase the quality of service for the customers? And, where do you want to put more towers? New buildings are coming up. They block the tower. How do you then, keep adapting to the whole, cities that are growing and being very dynamic? So all these are very massive problems. They need a lot of optimization and AI thinking, and very exciting to be there.
Imagine.
Yeah. So, what do you see the future of AI next 5 to 10 years? How do you see this?
I think something which is evolving as dynamically as AI is, difficult to clearly state the future, as it were. Who could have imagined an Uber or Ola or a Facebook or Airbnb or Amazon even 10, 15 years ago? I think this is early hours for AI. AI, as we all have come to accept that, is a enabling horizontal layer. It's like the new electricity. To my mind, will be hanging intelligent applications on it. And this is kind of affecting all businesses, including retail. Having said that, few key trends that I see. Number one, I think IoTs and sensors are digitizing our physical and biological worlds. Okay, and this means so many things, can be a day topic on its own. But amongst them, I think from a consumer and consumerist standpoint, it means that the consumer food choices would be biohacked. Number two, I think hyper-personalized products would be 3D printed. Number three, I think there would be a kind of, the whole shopping brick and mortar experiences would be more amorphous. I think AR, VR, and haptic, with technologies which have been around, are going to come of age. So these are 3-4 trends I see.
Yeah.
Quickly, that brings me, how come we don't see much success stories coming from social sectors, kind of impacted by AI? We saw the Intel presentation also.
Yes.
She spoke about so many social changes coming through AI. But one doesn't hear them in the same vein as successes of Amazon and Netflix and so on.
Yes.
So
yeah, I think one of the things, the whole world has actually focused on a certain set of applications, and retail e-commerce was not built in a day, right? It took almost 15, 20 years to build that. And if you look at the key turning milestones in those areas, was that they did a very good job of building sensors to collect data, right? Yeah. Point of sale, RFID, or whatever, and collecting data and mining data and all of that, right? Now that layer itself is completely missing in a lot of these sectors, right? And what AI will you do if you don't even have the data layer? So if I look at the potential is huge, right? So if you look at soil sensors, remote sensing sensors, today we don't even know how much was the yield of every farmer in the last 10 years. Even that basic sensor is missing, right? Education, again, we don't have sensors in the sense that, kids write their exam on paper, gets corrected and thrown, and we don't know which kid is struggling with what issue because either the teacher knows, the parents know, or the child know, but there is no crowdsourcing of that knowledge. Sure. So same thing, healthcare, we don't have a standard healthcare, electronic health record system. Pharmacy does what it does, and doctor writes a note, and the patient throws it away and once he is well. So I think the data layer has to be built the same way that we have done it in other areas, ads and search and retail. And I think the technology is ready. There's a lot of hunger in people. There are a lot of startups I see doing it. But the real struggle is, I don't, if I need very simple data from, ISRO on satellites, it's like a big thing, right? And, the costs are high and all that. So I think if we solve the data and sensor layer problems, the technology is ready to deliver a lot of value to people out there. If I put all the, technologies in speech and language and IoT and deep learning and machine learning, we just have to turn around a little bit and say, hey, solve this one problem, and then, you'll see a massive change in what we can do. Yeah.
Thank you. Look, we can go on, and would be happy to go on, but I think we should respect time here. We are just in time. Yeah. So, Shrikant, with your permission, if we can conclude this session. Yeah?
Sorry?
Please direct all the questions to Shailesh.
Yeah, you mentioned about usage of AI to deliver probably better experience to the network users. So it has two questions actually, so two parts. One is probably the whole network infrastructure also should be friendly to adapt itself based on the algorithm derives. So do you have this kind of a problem? Because to my knowledge, no network carrier right now is building this kind of a system. Second is, apart from this, probably pure call, so far I was thinking Jio is a network service provider. What other kind of leverage is happening using AI?
Yeah, so I think on the network side, see, I talked about the layer of machine learning and data science, right? The ability to act on your predictions. So if I can predict that, more traffic of, data consumption will happen in this part of the city, if I cannot act on it, or if I cannot act on it in a simple programmatic way, then it's a waste, right? So a lot of our towers are software controlled also. So you can actually tilt the antennas and do a lot of things by software. We don't have to have a person go up to the tower and tilt it, right? So many such things can be done through software, and how do you tie that ability with the ability of prediction to take that action? I think that is what we are counting on. And I think, as Reliance, we are like 6 businesses, not just one. So obviously, the similar problems are happening in refinery and retail and media businesses also, and we kind of sort of know them, right? Like retail problems, we know what Amazon does and similar problems, and we know what Netflix does and similar problems in Jio Cinema and
recommendations kind of.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
One last question. Sorry. Actually, the question is to both of you. My name is Vinay. I work with KPIT, but the underlying opinion or the thought is my own. I think between yesterday and today, there has been a prevalence of examples which have been quoted, which have been largely among the mega companies. There is the Amazon, there is the Airbnb, there is a Netflix and Ola. So I think most of these are fairly, very, very large companies which have been quoted as success stories and examples. What has been notably lacking in terms of at least examples being quoted have been some of the SMEs or even some of the reasonably sized companies who might or might not have benefited from this entire technology wave. My question to you, both of you, has been, does that presuppose that technologies like AI, to make best leverage of that, you need to have a certain threshold in terms of either scale, in terms of either revenue, or in terms of either reach to prospective customers to really benefit from that? Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes, yes, yes.
You want to go ahead first?
Okay. So, I talk to a lot of startups, and there is a catch-22 in AI, which is very important to understand. And the catch-22 is this: if you are building an intelligent product, it is going to need data, and only then people will use your product, right? Because it becomes. But it is going, unless people use it, it will not collect data. And this catch-22 is what you have to break. And if you can break that catch-22, so it's a very simple example. If you look at Live.ai and other speech companies, right? They're not doing speech, at a very large scale on day one. So how do you break this cycle in the loop? So what do? You talk to your own employees and say, let's start collecting our own speech data. Let's build a version 1 model. Then let's launch it to a broader, family and friends network for free. Then let's collect that data. Then we go further up, right? Why do you think Google search is still free? Because the benefit you get out of collecting data is far more than the cost you want to give to the customer.
Yeah, Google should be paying us for using the search engine.
Yeah.
Because they are using that data to perfect their AI. And tomorrow they would be booking hotels for you, doing what Uber or Ola does for you, would be handling most of your daily chores, so to say. My two bit to what you asked is, look, you and I also say a lot of intelligent things in course of our daily, weekly, monthly lives. But it is Mahatma Gandhi and Churchill and others who get quoted. So talking about big companies is, there are examples that you and I both can relate to. Having said that, second thing, as Shailesh pointed out, what has bring AI out of its winter, so to say, is that data, right? Which became the fodder to the bottom approach of machine learning. Okay, so the companies who are data rich, okay, are leaders in AI, whether it is Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent in China, or the Facebook and Amazon and Netflix and Apple and Google in US. Okay, and data colonization and what to do to come out of this vice-like, what looks like a vice-like grip of few people who are data rich. Okay, Geo would be another name soon added to that list, I guess. I would, in a sense, like it because there should be somebody from India too. But yes, that's a whole lot of business, political problem to solve for over next few years. Yeah.
So I think we'll be around. So if you have
I am so much enjoying it. Can't we continue, Shrikant? We can continue. You guys have anything else more important to do? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Shailesh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So we continue.